Did you know that Ireland, a country with fewer people than New York City, has surpassed the United States in wealth per capita? Yes, it sounds incredible, but today, Ireland has a higher GDP per capita than any major Western power. According to the International Monetary Fund, in 2024, Ireland exceeded $125,000 per person, while the United States sits around $85,000. How did a country that was considered poor, agricultural, and full of immigrants just a few decades ago achieve this? The answer is a mix of economic strategy, globalization, low taxes, and a bit of accounting magic. For much of the 20th century, Ireland was one of the poorest countries in Western Europe. It had high unemployment, an economy based on agriculture and basic services, and a strong dependency on the United Kingdom. On top of that, millions of Irish people emigrated in search of better opportunities in the US, Canada, Australia, and other countries. But everything changed in the last decades of the 20th century, especially in the 1990s, when Ireland decided to completely reshape its economic model. One of the key decisions was to set an extremely low corporate tax rate, just 12%. That became the perfect hook to attract large multinational companies, especially in tech and pharma. On top of that, Ireland invested heavily in education, offering a young, skilled population, English-speaking, and with direct access to the European market thanks to EU membership. This made Ireland the ideal gateway for companies wanting to do business in Europe without the costs and bureaucracy of larger countries. They opened offices, data centers, manufacturing plants, research labs, and regional headquarters. With them came thousands of high-paying jobs, foreign capital, and major improvements in infrastructure. In just a few years, Ireland transformed from Europe's periphery into a global tech and pharma hub. All of this was reflected in its macroeconomic data. GDP began to grow rapidly, unemployment dropped, and the country was nicknamed the Celtic Tiger, in reference to Asia's tiger economies due to its fast growth. But in 2015, something happened that confused everyone. Ireland's GDP grew by 26.3% in just 1 year. That massive jump wasn't the result of productivity growth or a domestic industrial boom. It was due to an accounting maneuver. Apple restructured its international operations and declared billions of dollars in Ireland, thanks to tax advantages. Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman mocked the situation by calling it Leprechaun economics, like something out of Irish folklore. And in a way, it was. Not a fraud, but a legal game played within the rules of globalization and tax competition. Since then, Irish economists began using a different metric, modified GNI, or gross national income. When we look at that number, the story changes. Per capita income drops from over $125,000 to somewhere between $60,000 and $70,000. Still high, but far more realistic. So, is Ireland really rich, or does it just look rich on paper? The answer is somewhere in the middle. Ireland has improved its quality of life significantly. It has a high-quality education system, universal healthcare access, good infrastructure, low unemployment, a growing middle class, and constant international talent coming in. Many young professionals from all over Europe move to Ireland to work or study. Job opportunities, especially in tech, are abundant. But it also faces serious problems. Housing prices have skyrocketed, especially in Dublin, where renting an apartment can be more expensive than in Paris or Berlin. Housing demand far exceeds supply, and many young Irish people can't afford to buy their first home. Ireland also depends heavily on a small group of foreign companies. If those companies decide to move, shut down, or shift their profits elsewhere, the economy could take a major hit. That makes Ireland vulnerable to changes in global tax policies. In fact, in 2021, under pressure from the G7, G20, and OECD, Ireland agreed to join the Global Minimum Tax Deal, which set a corporate tax floor of 15%. This marks the beginning of the end for Ireland's tax advantage. While the transition will be gradual, some companies may reconsider their presence in the country if it no longer offers the same benefits. Still, what Ireland has achieved is impressive. It went from being a poor, forgotten country to a model of adaptation in the digital age. It used its small size to be agile, surpassed agile, its language to connect with the Anglosphere, and its EU membership to attract strategic investment. But this also teaches us something important. Not everything in economic data reflects reality. Ireland is richer than the United States, on paper. But that doesn't mean it has more economic power, more global influence, or that its citizens necessarily live better than Americans. It's easy to look at Ireland today and be impressed by the numbers. The Celtic Tiger, once a metaphor for explosive growth, became a symbol of how a small nation could punch far above its weight in a globalized world. It played its cards with remarkable precision. Low taxes, a young educated workforce, EU membership, and a welcoming business environment. It turned its size into a strength, its language into a bridge, and its past hardships into fuel for reinvention. Ireland didn't just attract companies, it redefined its economic destiny. It moved from the margins of Europe to the center of tech and pharma powerhouses, and in doing so, it became a case study in how globalization can transform a country when the conditions are right. But here's the paradox. That same success now sits on a fragile foundation. The Celtic Tiger roared, but it roared because the world allowed it to, because international tax rules had loopholes, because corporations sought efficiency above fairness, and because capital flows freely in a world where accountability often lags behind innovation. Today, Ireland's prosperity depends heavily on a handful of foreign giants. Its tax policies, once praised for their cleverness, are now under global scrutiny. And the very model that brought so much success could become a risk if international rules shift too quickly, or if companies find a new playground. So the question isn't just whether Ireland is rich, it's whether it's resilient. Can it adapt again, as it did in the 90s, to a world that demands greater tax justice, more economic transparency, and sustainable development? Ireland is, without doubt, a success story. But it's also a reminder, economic growth is not the same as national strength. A country's true power isn't measured just by GDP per capita, but by the depth of its foundations, the stability of its systems, the fairness of its opportunities, and the capacity to weather future storms. And now I ask you, should other small countries follow the Irish path? Lean into globalization, lower taxes, and fight for a place in the world economy? Or should we, as a global community, rethink the rules of the game to ensure that success doesn't come at the cost of inequality, instability, or the hollowing out of public resources? If this story surprised you, like this video, subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends. Which topic should we explore next? Drop your ideas in the comments, and stay tuned for more stories that challenge how we see the world.